This week's episode of Fireside is brought to you by Legends of Belize, Diva by Sarah, and Wonders Oddities Expo.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to Fireside Paranormal Podcast. My name is Jordan Cline, and as always, got a fun show planned out today. My guest tonight is Vince Field. He is the author of Astral Projection and Lucid Dreaming, Spiritual Revelations, and Out-of-Body Experiences in Higher Dimensions. Before we get to him, just a few announcements.
Want to add some individuality to your drinkware? Diva by Sarah can help. Tumblers, sippy cups, flip tops, and even glow-in-the-dark tumblers available, with tons of designs to choose from and new designs being added all the time. You can order at www.divabysarah.com, or if you're local, buy products in store at Connie's Creative Collective at the Ohio Valley Mall. Have a school or organization that needs a great fundraiser? We can do that too. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Diva by Sarah to see new products, learn about giveaways, and more.
Legends of Belize is a series about mythical creatures that dwell in the jungles and waters of Belize. The Belizean legends are captured, documented, and preserved like never before in a comprehensive art series and books with fully colored and detailed images of fine art by artists, authors, and award-winning animators Dismas and Grissi G. Discover the supernatural creatures that await deep in the jungles, such as the mysterious dwarf called Tata Duende with backwards feet known to rip the thumbs off of trespassers, or the beautiful shape-shifting woman known to locals as the Ishtabai, who seduces drunks to never be seen again. These creatures and many more can be found in the Legends of Belize books. Learn about the cryptozoological, paranormal, and unexplained creatures that haunt Belize. Be fascinated. Be terrified. Belize. Legend of Belize books are available in print and ebook. Buy your copy from your favorite online bookstores such as Amazon, KDP, Apple Books, and many more. Also be sure to visit legendsofbelize.com.
I'm excited to announce an event coming up hosted by one of our sponsors, the Wonders Oddities Expo. This event is going to be October 8th and 9th in the Monroeville, PA Convention Center from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's going to be performers, vendors, speakers, a costume contest, and so much more. I'm going to be there too with my table set up, going to be recording some featured stories, and I got some fun new merch as well, so I would love to see you there. Also, be sure to check out American Paranormal Magazine at paranormalzine.com. They have an award coming out soon called the Owlie Award. It's the number one paranormal person, I guess, for the year. They're opening up to podcasters, authors, and I sure would like it. So if you don't mind, go to the website, paranormalzine.com, and give me a vote. I'd appreciate it. All right, our first featured story is going to come in from Anthony, and he is with Haunted Hearing Adventures.
Okay, so my name is Anthony Long, and I'm from Columbus, Ohio. So basically, it all started with, started from with my buddy of mine. We were go out and explore things, and, we wanted to see how it was. So we went out to a cemetery somewhere, and it was nice. It was a nice place.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's called Green Lawn Cemetery. We went there first time, and, it was a really good exploring. So right before we went to Green Lawn, we were doing a place in cemetery called Williesburger Cemetery. I don't know if the place is still haunted. So we went there, and crazy stuff happened at nighttime. We were told not to go at nighttime. So we went there, and we started hearing whispering all over the place, and then the water right beside splashing unexpectedly. It's crazy. So he told me to go down there. We went down there, and I went down there, and the water was like splashing all over the place.
Oh, man.
So, and I'm like, it's got to be fishing and stuff. So I went in there, and I saw a bunch of figures, just going down there, just walking. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So this is my partner right here. So we're formerly known as Haunted Hearing Adventures.
Okay.
So, like I told you before, Green Lawn Cemetery, that was our first place we went to. Big shot on that. So we did a spot, and it was called, what was it called? Hayden's Family. Uh-huh. It was really, really nice family. paid a lot of respect for him. So moving forward, we went to another place, and it's like a dark tunnel. I never want to go there again. Never. I never want to go there again, but he told me, hey, just check it out or whatever. And I'm like, all right, we'll check it out. 15 minutes later, I went out, gone, done. Never want to go there again. I like to check it out again, though, because, it's been like, 3 years? So it's been a long time.
Now, where can people find your group?
Twitter, all over the place. We're all over social media.
All right, and give the name real quick again.
Twitter.
No, what's the name of the group again?
Oh, so we got James Frazier here. He's the owner of the Paranormal group, and I'm the co-owner. And then we got another member. Yeah, so camera person. So we're 3 of short, and we need 1 more, but we're looking for someone.
And the name of the group?
What is it?
Name of the group.
Haunted Heron Adventures.
Okay.
Haunted Heron Adventures.
Appreciate you.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Our next story comes in from Tracey. Thank you so much, Tracey. Up next, Ben.
Ben from McDonald, PA. Our house is like the oldest house in McDonald, basically. And when I was probably 18, 19, I woke up on my bed, and the window's right next to the bed, and I was laying on my stomach, and I felt like something was on my back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was raised in the Judeo-Christian milieu, yeah. So I suppose it was the bad guy, yeah. And so I also requested help from the good guy in that context, yeah. And it stopped, yeah. But no, before it stopped, I looked over at my window, and it looked like a big black drape swept over the window.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But later I studied psychology, and I think maybe it was sleep paralysis with hypnagogic hallucinations, and in the psychological.
It could.
Or the house is haunted, maybe. I thought the house was haunted for many years. And another one is I was downstairs on the couch, and the same thing, like I couldn't move my body, and I woke up and I was like hovering near the ceiling, yeah.
Oh, really?
And then the same thing happened. I think it was maybe the same thing, yeah. And then I just supposed that it was that hypnagogic stuff and the sleep paralysis. But many years later, I found out that all the old temples and churches in Europe were built on moving water. And actually our house had like water. There was like yeah, and it does something with the ions. Yeah. It leads to like mystical experiences.
Yeah, they say like moving water and things like that.
Yeah. We had a stream in our basement for many years. So it could have been, how you want to define it. You can define it how you want, but
there's always a what if.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ben. If you want your story to be one of our featured stories, make sure you send me an email, firesideparanormalpodcast@gmail.com.
Are you into the paranormal, true ghost stories, Bigfoot and alien encounters, or high strangeness and conspiracies? Well, if so, then you should check out my podcast called Somewhere in Dreamland. My name is Ken Mark, and every week I interview authors, researchers, and experiencers alike in the fields of the paranormal, cryptozoology, ufology, and spirituality. So why not take a dive down that rabbit hole with me and search for Somewhere in Dreamland wherever you listen to podcasts. That's Somewhere in Dreamland.
All right, I want to get to my guest. Join me by the fire as we welcome Vince Field. He is the author of Astral Projection and Lucid Dreaming, Spiritual Revelations and Out-of-Body Experiences in Higher Dimensions. Vince, are you with us?
Yes, I am. How's it going?
Really good, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Listen, Astral Projection is one of those that I want to know about. I want to hear stories. I'm kind of like the skeptical believer. Like, I want it to be real. I want it to be true. And I want to talk to you about that. So I'm excited for this.
Awesome. Yeah. And, it's one of those things that you can actually do yourself. So you don't have to take my word for anything. After the show, I'll give you a technique and you can go have your own astral projection.
Now, how much practice does it take?
Well, it depends on the person, When I first did it, back when I was 14 years old, so this was like 22 years ago, I practiced every night for less than a week, maybe 5 or 6 days, and I was able to do it. Some people are able to do it like almost naturally, like spontaneously.
Really?
And other people, They try and try months, years, and they're still not able to do it. And it's not that some people can do it and some people can't do it, but there are a lot of factors involved in actually being successful at this practice. And it's not just technique. Like, yeah, having the right technique is very helpful, but there are other factors like your beliefs and your emotions going into it, your expectations, and so it's not just like knowing the right way to do it, but there's a lot of like deep-seated like internal aspects that also need to be like in alignment. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this, because you said like some people don't even know that they're doing it. So like if they just like kind of go, like, do they think they're just having a good dream and they're really like flying to another dimension? Like, how does that even? All right, let's start it this way. What is astral projection?
Astral projection is a type of out-of-body experience in which your consciousness enters higher dimensions of reality, and it experiences these other dimensions, from a first-person perspective, just like we're experiencing this physical world. Well, you enter these other dimensions, and now you're navigating and interacting with these other levels of reality.
So how does that differ from, because your book is Astral Projection and Lucid Dreams? Do they tie in together, or is it like two separate completely experiences?
Yeah, they are connected, definitely, but they are different. The main difference is, well, we can start with dreams, right? Just a normal dream is essentially like a creation of the subconscious mind, and you're involved in some kind of scenario or a situation, and they say dreams are kind of ways that we can perhaps express ourselves in ways that we can't do it during our physical life, and sometimes it's other psychological issues kind of being expressed, things like that. But so with a lucid dream, you become consciously aware during a dream. So you realize you're dreaming. And from that point, you can control your dream, control your own actions in the dream. But this dream scenario that is being played out and generated from the subconscious mind, well, that still it exists, right? So you become lucid, you're aware that you're dreaming, but there's still this dream scenario taking place. And so you can go along with that. You can change the scenario. There are many things you can do, but you can also transcend this dream scenario. And what happens is you transcend the manifestations of the subconscious mind. So whereas the dream and the lucid dream are purely subjective experiences, you can transition that into an objective experience of these higher dimensions. And this is exactly what an astral projection is. So your consciousness is directly entering these objective, non-physical dimensions of reality. And so it's actually possible to enter that same state from the lucid dream.
So how do you know at that point that the astral projection isn't a dream in itself, like isn't part of your dream?
Well, there are things you can do to test and verify that. So for example, with a lucid dream, what you're experiencing is essentially, generated from the subconscious mind. So you have such a high degree of control over these elements that you're experiencing. So simply stating the intention, like, I want every aspect of this experience that is subjective from my subconscious mind to be gone. And then that's exactly what happens. And so you can do the same thing in astral projection too. And you'll see, over time with experiences and experiments like this, you get a good idea of what is what.
So like in astral projection, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm shooting in the dark here, right? So like I could, astral project right now to where you are and then be able to see things in your room, like where you're recording, and I could tell you what they are to kind of verify that I really been there. Is that
Okay, well,
or am I way off?
you're not way off, but it is a common misconception because by definition, astral projection takes place in the astral dimensions. And we're not in the astral dimension right now. This is the physical dimension, right? So what happens is your consciousness enters higher levels of reality, it enters another dimension. So you're no longer experiencing this physical world. See, here's the thing. There are many, 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 probably an infinite amount of dimensions out there. And typically, the astral dimensions that are on the lower end of the spectrum or that are closer to the physical dimension, like the dimensions that are just slightly outside of the reach of the physical dimension, well, these actually do look very similar to the physical world, almost like a reflection of the physical world. So it is possible to kind of gain a glimpse into what's happening in the physical dimension because this lowest non-physical level is almost like a spiritual reflection of the physical world. But it's not going to be exactly the same. And the farther from the physical dimension you get in this spectrum of higher dimensions, the more different the realities become, to the point where there's no more resemblance at all to the physical world or physical concepts.
So how far have you been?
Well, I've been so far that, like I just said, it's totally beyond like your ability to truly comprehend it using physical concepts because it's just so different, so abstract. But typically, yeah, in these higher dimensions of reality, there are certain characteristics of these higher dimensions that get more pronounced the higher you go. So, for example, you'll experience a connection with a higher source of consciousness. You'll experience a connection with all of consciousness. You'll experience a connection with God, with the creator of everything. You'll experience profound states of bliss and like divine love, things that you can never possibly imagine, let alone experience in a physical body.
And you're like feeling all this at the same time, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, it's some of these experiences are beyond mind blowing.
It'd be pretty intense.
It's like your ego, who you are, like, is no more, completely disintegrated, and it gets hard to actually describe.
Okay, so in my mind, you're saying, that we have these higher dimensions. So, like, I'm thinking, like, our physical world would be like the baseline, right?
Right.
And then how many levels up? I mean, do you think, like, do you know you're moving from one level to the next? Like, it's a process, like, it takes you like an hour or a few minutes, to get to the next one? Or do you, like, so, because you've been doing it so long, you can say, like, I want to go to the 10th dimension. Boom, there, like.
Sure. So it's not quite like there's a set number of dimensions, like you mentioned the number 10. It doesn't quite work like that. It's far more complex. It's not like kind of like levels of an apartment building.
Oh yeah.
But essentially, the various dimensional levels have particular qualities that are unique to those, and so you can just observe, the environment, and also your own consciousness is like attuned to that particular the energy of that dimension, and it is affected by it too. So not only the dimension and your surroundings and any entities or individuals you meet, but also your own state of consciousness will be reflected by what particular level or dimension you are in.
Wow. Now, I know you had said before, like, experiencing, like, God the creator. Like, is that like you're in the dimension of heaven? Like, do you feel that? Like, do you see angels and spirits and things like that in that dimension? Or are you just kind of just overtaken with that impression?
Yeah, well, this connection is, like I said, it's experienced to a greater extent. The higher you go, the higher dimension you shift into, and like you said, heaven. You can consider these higher dimensions to be heavenly dimensions. There isn't just like one heaven, but it's just kind of like layer upon layer of all these different dimensions. And so, yeah, this experience of being one with higher consciousness, with divinity, with the creator. It's not like you're standing there with God, but you experience your connection and your relationship with God like firsthand. In a way, it's hard to really just to explain, because we don't have this experience typically in the physical body. But it's like deep in your heart and in your soul, you can say there's this undeniable connection. So, the idea of angels, you mentioned angels and spirits. Well, entities like this exist in all levels of non-physical reality. So, like I said, it's not just one heaven where like everyone goes when they die, or one hell, right? It's much more complex than that.
I know so you mentioned like soul, and when you're traveling, do you feel like you are like still a physical body going through? Are you just consciousness? Are you your soul? Like, what would you classify you in that state?
Well, what I typically call it is an energy body,
Okay.
or you can call it an astral body or a spirit body. But what it is a type of body that is attuned with a particular dimension you're in. So these are non-physical dimensions. So it's a non-physical body. But so let's say you look at your hands. Typically, they'll have the same appearance as your hands, but a lot of times they'll be more like transparent, almost like a ghost.
Okay.
Sometimes not. It depends on the particular dimensional level you're in. It also depends on the state of your consciousness, how strong your awareness is. So, for example, with a really high level of awareness, you can look at your hands and you can see the details of your hands to a far greater extent than you can see them in the physical world. Even like peering into like the molecules and like the pure energy that they consist of, something we can't do, with the physical body. But if you have a lower level of awareness, sometimes you look at your hands and they'll actually melt away or disintegrate. And what's interesting is that this energy body, it does appear to be a legitimate body, but it's highly influenced by your state of consciousness and by your expectations and even by your intention. So you can actually change the form of your body like through your intention.
Oh, wow. Well, that's neat.
Yeah.
Now you said there's higher levels, and then you mentioned hell. So are there lower levels as well, where things get not as bright and fun? It's kind of like, bad acid trip.
Yeah, for sure. And you can kind of consider it like Earth, like we have like ghettos, like really dangerous places where there's a lot of crime and, people just do horrible things to one another. And then we have, really nice, wholesome, neighborhoods where people are friendly and neighborly and, caring for one another. And so it's like that out there, the lower dimensions. are populated typically by entities that have a lower state of consciousness, which is, characterized by qualities like hatred and malice and envy. You know what I mean? And the same is true with the higher heavenly dimensions. The people who are attracted to these levels are, typically loving and, spiritually aware. And so, yeah, that's essentially how it goes. And,
Can you
there,
can you pick where you go?
well, in the sense that, okay, if you're talking about me or like an astral traveler, yeah, eventually, see, the thing is, typically in the beginning of one's practice, you don't have a lot of spiritual development.
Yeah.
There's a type of development that comes just from the practice itself. And it's like your energy body and like your spirit, it gains the ability to attune to higher and higher dimensions like over time with practice. And so typically in the beginning, a person will encounter mainly the lower levels, but like I said, over time you start to access higher and higher dimensions. And so once you get to that point, you can choose, you can choose to go into a lower dimension, you can choose to go into a higher dimension. But the thing is this, these astral dimensions, these higher dimensions, they are where we go when we die. Okay, and I've communicated with my deceased relatives, and you will find entire regions that are populated by people who have died.
Wow.
And so in that scenario, you don't have so much of a choice. It's more determined by, like I mentioned before, your state of consciousness, your predominant tendencies and your emotional state and your psychology and all of these factors kind of influence your own spiritual energy, and that will determine what dimension you go to in the afterlife.
So not only can you go through different kind of dimensional levels in your own travel, but you can see people that have passed by going to certain levels. Like are they, because I know you've said there's so many, like do they happen to stay within a range, or you're like, hey, I'm going to take a ride down to this one and see one of my friends, or like, can you interact with them?
Yeah, definitely. You can interact with them. They're aware of you. At least some of the time they're aware of you. It depends on their particular state of consciousness. But what I typically do is, if I want to, a lot of times I will want to see a particular person.
Yeah.
And the intention, it's not like me having a map and saying, this is where they're going, this is where they are, this
Yeah.
is where I need to go to get there. But here's how it works. We are actually a small part of a much larger consciousness, a higher consciousness. And you can experience these higher aspects of your own consciousness during these higher level out-of-body experiences. And so it is these higher aspects of your consciousness which actually help to direct you in these experiences. So for example, the first time I contacted a deceased person, it was my great-grandmother. And I stated the intention, I want to see my great-grandmother. And the next thing I knew, I was flying through space.
Oh, wow.
And all these planets and stars were just like whizzing by me. And then suddenly I'm face to face with her, like out in the far reaches of space. And so what happens is that our higher consciousness essentially either brings us to them or brings them to us, or maybe a little bit of both. And yeah, so that's essentially how it works. If you want to meet a deceased person, you really just need to have the strong intention and just know who they are.
Have you ever, and this is just something that kind of popped in my head. Having this ability that you have you ever like tried to help solve like missing person crimes, where they're trying to find who killed the person? Like, have you ever tried to do any of that, or are you able?
Okay, so you're saying like in this
Kind of like
example,
go to
the missing
Sally, who
person.
killed you? That kind of
Sure,
deal.
right. I've never done that. I've never really thought to do that.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do some experiments with that. But yeah, no, I haven't. But I would imagine it's certainly a possibility. Yeah, that would be interesting. It could be even a decent way to kind of give a type of proof to certain skeptics. Although, there's also just like the typical psychics and the mediums who, some of them may have an ability to kind of tap into certain knowledge like that without having to leave their body. You know what I mean?
Do you think
Yeah,
that,
I think it's possible for sure.
Because talking about psychics here, do you think that with psychics, they have the ability to just go mentally kind of to these different dimensions to talk, or do you think it's something different altogether?
Yeah. I wouldn't say that they necessarily go to those dimensions, but I would say they're able to open a connection with either information or maybe even individuals or entities that are in these other dimensions. So yeah, for sure. I mean, what's interesting is that during astral projection, you have psychic abilities that we don't have while we're like grounded in the physical body.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so I can gain all of this information almost like a direct download, like almost instantaneously. Depending on the experience and what's happening and who I'm interacting with. But yeah, it's like we're open to all these new abilities too once we're in this other state of consciousness.
All right, so I got a fun one here. You talked about like seeing your great grandma in space. So in my mind, I said, okay, like UFOs and aliens, right? In your travels, have you come across anything like that?
More times than I can count.
Really?
I've been visited, would be putting it lightly, by aliens during these out of body states.
So they like seek you out.
One group has, and yeah, I would even use the term stalk. It was pretty intense for a while, and it was this one particular group. They didn't appear to have the best intentions, but I've also made contact with other groups who were more enlightened, you can say, and I actually gained some incredible revelations from them.
Really?
So I've had both positive and negative experiences with aliens out of my body.
Do you know what the groups were called? Like, do we have names for them here in our, I guess, vocabulary?
I can describe them, right? I don't have any particular names, but the one group that I would say stalked me looked like a type of gray alien, but they had light orange skin.
Oh, wow.
And so, like a triangular shaped head, the big black slanted eyes, this light orange skin, small skinny bodies. And these guys actually appear to be almost mechanical in a sense. Like their movements were jerky and like so rigid and unnatural. And like at times, like their heads would kind of like twitch from side to side, really disturbing. And so the other groups, this one other group, they were smaller than that previous group I mentioned, but they did have the typical gray alien appearance too, but their skin was like a light blue shade. And this other group had almost pure white skin, and it was like a humanoid, kind of similar to a gray appearance. And they actually appeared with masks on,
Like surgical masks or like full face?
like a white, like kind of like opera, Shadow of the Opera type
Okay.
mask. Really unusual.
Now, which ones kind of were the best to you, would you say?
Well, let me tell you about one of my experiences
Okay,
that
yeah.
I wrote about in my book. I was out of my body, and next thing I know, I'm face to face with this alien, and it's the white one, the white skin and the mask on, and this telepathic link opens up between us, and I get this download of knowledge and information and memories, and all these memories are coming to me. It's like flashes, like from what almost seemed like sometime in my past, but it wasn't my past. It was from the present, which is kind of wrap your head around that. But what was revealed to me, and this was revealed not just by this alien telling me, but I experienced the truth of this. It was memories and experience, that I am living a concurrent, like alternate lifetime as one of these aliens.
Oh wow.
And not only that, but I have a strong connection with this alien that was in front of me, that opened this connection with me. I had a strong bond with this alien in this other life. And it was like it visited me, like in this life, to share that with me, to share this information about this other life that I have with this alien. It was really trippy, but it wasn't like the reality of the experience was beyond question, even though it sounds crazy. There's no doubt in my mind that what I experienced was true.
Now, you said you first started when you were like 14. Did any, and here's why I asked. Let me give a little background. I had somebody tell me, and this is, man, many years ago. I was probably a teenager. Somebody who was a contactee, right? Somebody who had been visited by aliens, said he was abducted, most of his life, but he could astral project as well. And he said that was something that came from them. At 14, you just kind of started going at it. Do you think that there was any kind of connection? Do you think that they were attaching to you in some way then?
I can't say that is the case, but I do agree that there is a connection between these entities, these aliens, and astral projection. I've been pulled out of my body by these entities, like against my will.
What?
They have the ability to do this, and if you look into certain alien abduction reports, they're almost identical to astral projection. Okay, so like for example, here's a typical alien abduction case. I'm laying in bed, and all of a sudden, there's like a ringing in my head, and I'm paralyzed. And then there's these aliens all around me, and then I start floating up, and I float through the wall or the ceiling, and then I go into the spaceship, and the rest. Well, that's exactly what happens during astral projection. Because what happens is, to have an astral projection, your body falls asleep and your mind stays awake. And so in this state, it's typically called sleep paralysis. Your body's asleep and your mind's awake. And what happens in sleep paralysis is that your consciousness is shifted from the physical dimension now, and you're actually perceiving the astral dimension, which is where these entities exist. Sometimes people will see aliens or demons or shadow people. I've seen shadow people many times out of my body. And so these people don't realize that they're not perceiving the physical dimension. They're looking into another dimension. And then, sometimes I would imagine they may just have a spontaneous out of body experience, and they'll experience being lifted out of their body. Sometimes these entities will kind of induce that, like has happened to me many times. And from there, like they've taken me places. They pulled me out of my body, and next thing I know, I'm kind of like being rushed down this like metallic corridor, and it's pretty creepy. But see, I have the discernment from 2 decades of experience of realizing I'm out of my body. But a lot of times these people, they don't realize that. They think these are actually physical encounters.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. How long do you think it's been where you were conscious of that part of it?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Okay, how long, as far as, you started at 14 pretty much.
Mhm.
How long into it did you realize that the abductions, quote unquote, were really them just taking you out of your body?
Okay, sure. Well, essentially when these contacts first started, it was several years after I started my practice. I didn't encounter these aliens right away.
Okay.
But I instantly knew what was happening just because I had so much experience already, years of experience in these states already. So it wasn't new to me. What was new to me is that all of a sudden these entities are all around me when I leave my body, or they're pulling me out of my body. And that was pretty shocking because honestly, I didn't expect to encounter them out of my body. I thought these were like physical beings, riding around in UFOs in the skies and abducting people out of their houses. So it was, yeah, pretty shocking to me.
I bet. Man, that's intense, Vince.
Yeah, sure. But you know what? Out of all these like, frightening experiences that I've had way more just like so profound, incredible, enlightening, transformational experiences. They more than make up for the handful of, negative ones.
So, what does it feel like? Like, what do you like the first time you go out, and do, projection? Like, what are you seeing? I know you said it's like the physical. Are you just like, if I'm sitting on my couch now, I kind of float out and it's like a mirror image of me sitting on my couch still? Am I floating through the air?
Yeah, well, typically you'll see your body still wherever it was, and like I said in the beginning, you'll project to the lower dimensions typically, so everything will look pretty much the same. A lot of times it'll be darker because usually in these lower dimensions it is darker. There's like an absence of light. It's not complete darkness, but it's like nighttime or like dusk. And depending on your state of consciousness, your vision can be a little blurry. And a lot of times it's recommended when you leave your body to do some kind of technique to strengthen your focus so that it gives your consciousness a boost and your senses, your perceptions are clarified, right? But yeah, you'll feel kind of like a subtle energy all throughout your body that you're usually not aware of in normal waking consciousness. And I mean, when you project from the body, it's very common to experience really strong energetic sensation that's commonly called vibrations. And it feels like your whole body is vibrating like intensely, almost like you're being electrocuted.
Wow.
But it doesn't hurt. It's pretty pleasant. And so after this like intense vibrational stage, which is usually when your energy body is separating from the physical body, then you'll be usually weightless. And how you move out here is typically just flying, because how movement works is it's all directed by your mind and your intention. So it's not like you need to walk from place to place. You just think like, I want to go through my window, and you just start going there. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. You can pass through matter there essentially. So fly through the window, fly through the roof. and you feel yourself passing through it. It's kind of like a tingly energy.
I was going to ask you what it felt like.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And what else is interesting is that you can run into a type of like mental block, and you won't be able to pass through your wall, for example. It'll seem like some kind of force is like holding you back. And what happens is that, we're so used to this physical world and this physical matter, we can't walk through a wall. And so this kind of this expectation carries over into these astral projections, and then sometimes it's something you need to like overcome. And one time it was my first time astral projecting into the ocean. and at first I was like, oh, I feel like I need to hold my breath, and it was really uncomfortable. And I just intellectually I knew I don't need to hold my breath. I don't need to breathe. I'm out of my body. But there was like a deep-seated belief that like I needed to, and it took a little while to overcome that.
I'd say.
So things like that can happen. It's pretty interesting.
Have you ever came across like other people that are projecting?
Yeah, I've had many experiences with my wife.
Yeah?
And she's had her own experiences, sometimes spontaneously, sometimes it's really interesting. But I mentioned that we have these higher aspects of our consciousness, right? And these higher aspects are active and involved in a multitude of different dimensional levels simultaneously. It's really fascinating, really complex. And what happens is you can be out of your body, interacting with a person who in physical reality is awake and active in their day, but you can interact with higher portions of their consciousness. And so the physical portion of their consciousness is not aware of this interaction, but in these higher astral levels, there's a real interaction going on.
Man, this is a lot for me to wrap my brain around.
Yeah, try reading my book. Honestly, the way I approach this in my book is kind of like gradual and incremental. So it's not like I'm not throwing all this at you all at once, like I'm kind of doing now. It's kind of like baby steps to facilitate the reader's comprehension. So, but yeah, it's pretty wild, man.
Now, in the book, do you tell people how to do it?
Yeah, definitely. I basically run you through the techniques that I've used along the way. So, I share my first astral projection in the very beginning of the book. But I share the technique. I tell you, I laid down and I did this and that and that. Then I had this experience, and then I explain the experience, right? And so I do that throughout the book. As I start to use and experiment with different methods and techniques, I explain those.
Tell people how to find your book.
You can find it on Amazon. It's in Kindle, paperback, audiobook, whatever format you prefer.
And then how do people find you?
You can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. My username across all of the platforms is Vincent Field Author, just one word. And, I encourage everyone to get in touch with me. And, if you have any questions, need some help, some advice, I'd be happy to help out. And I'm also developing a video series explaining some of my techniques. And, it's an instructional video series to give some further help to anyone who needs it.
Now, will you be doing that on TikTok or like YouTube?
I am currently doing this. I've already produced and posted several videos, and they're on all of my social media accounts.
Nice. That's awesome. And it's really nice that you're giving people the opportunity to contact you, for that extra advice. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I've been working with people since I started this practice. At first I was involved with like online groups, like forums. That was before social media. And then with social media, got involved in different groups there. But yeah, I've always been, kind kind of motivated by helping other people have these experiences too. And yeah, I think there's some real benefit in these practices.
And it's Vincent Field's author, or Field.
Field, yeah, no S.
Vincent Field author. So check him out. Make sure you add him. Get this book. It will, I mean, Lordy day, I figure if you start doing the things that are in his book, it's going to change your life.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I know through firsthand experience.
There we go. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We will be talking again. I really do appreciate you. Yeah, this time has flown.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man. Thanks.
Hey, have a great night. Hey, and also, I'm going to hit him up. So listen to the Patreon. He's going to go through some steps on how to project. So until then, thank you so much, Vince. Have a good night.
Okay, thanks, man. You too.
Bye. And with that, the fire is out. Thank you so much, Vince, and thank all of you for listening. I really do appreciate y'all. If you haven't had the chance to connect with me online, make sure you find the social medias. On Facebook, it's Fireside Paranormal Hub. Make sure you join that. We have a lot of fun there. A lot of past guests are on there as well if you want to ask some more questions or just get to know some folks in the paranormal field. We also have Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, at Fireside Parapod. We have our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Fireside Paranormal. Lots of fun things happening. We have exclusive bonus audios, which is the after interview conversations that we have. With this episode here, Vince actually talks about how to astral project. He gives us one of his methods. We also have the interview sections of the show without any ads, and tiers start at just $1. So make sure you check that out. Patreon.com/Fireside Paranormal. Check out the website for that sweet, sweet Fireside merch. That's firesideparanormal.com. And that is all the time we have for this week. So until next week, everybody, don't be afraid, only believe.